Now the story of semi-final 1 is not over yet. Rumblings in the paddock about a possible second rerun of the race. There are the drivers. Let's try and find out what's going on.
They've said that after the race they find out that Christopher should have been able to take the restart, but clearly he wouldn't have been able to with the car in that state. So
the race has been run. There has been a racing incident off the start line, and it continued on. And since then, there's been a restart. We started on the lights, and we finished on the checker flag. And as far as we're concerned, the race has run. Goalposts are certainly moving here, so just waiting to see what rules they want to make up.
Well, despite the misgivings of some drivers, it looks as though we are going to have another rerun of semi-final 1. Drivers heading to the grid, including Mike Jordan's son.
Christopher was stuck there with a damaged rear suspension, couldn't take the restart, but they've restarted the race, and as far as I'm concerned, they've started it with a green light, they've ended it with a checkered flag. That's the race. If you're not in it, there's lots of us, let's face it. I'd love to go back to my last touring car race at Silverstone and say, right guys, can we just leave that a couple of weeks and I'll come and do it in a few weeks when I'm a bit better, because I was in fourth and I could probably get on the podium. It's an absolute joke.
Well, it's the decision of the clerk of the course, Chris Gibson, and his decision is final. So, semi-final 1 rerun gets underway with Chris Evans on the front of the grid. And he's second now, and this time he makes a good start. Ollie O'Donovan on the outside, Steve Hill's away quickly as well. So Christopher Evans leads as they go down towards Clevo Corner. Hill storms up on the inside, George Tracy trying to go through, and O'Donovan there just tickling the back of Steve Hill's Mitsubishi. Andrew Jordan didn't make that good a start this time around in the red Saab, but Christopher Evans, he sees them up front. The team has worked very hard over the last 20 minutes or so to get the car back together again, and that is Andy Grant pulling off. He won the repechage to get into the semi-finals, but Andy Grant's weekend comes to an end as now Evans is pulling away. Steve Hill second, Ollie O'Donovan is third, George Tracy fourth, and Andrew Jordan fifth. And not only does this race have an extra car in it, it's also got a very different look compared to what we saw earlier on. Off there also goes number 70 Chris Langley, and that could well be the end of his race. George Tracy there with Andrew Jordan right up behind him, and there's been a bit of contact somewhere, look, because the rear of George Tracy's car not looking like he did a lap ago, and Jordan storms round the outside of him. Andrew Jordan in the Saab goes through, or does he? Tracy clips the tyres and then spins, round he goes. There was enough tar smoke anyway from his own rubber fouling against the bodywork, and that spin hasn't really helped visibility. He limps away. In the meantime, Chris Evans looks as though now he's on target to score victory in this semi-final. Steve Hill, who's moved from rallying into Rallycross this year, is second. Ollie O'Donovan third now. O'Donovan thought he'd won this race. He won the first run of it. Here's a replay of Andrew Jordan going around the outside of Tracy at Clevo Corner. Tracy thumps the tyres on the inside with probably enough force there to have damaged the suspension as round he goes. The car didn't seem to want to get going again, and I just wonder whether he's damaged the front right suspension of the car. Checkered flag, this time for Christopher Evans, but for second place it's Steve Hill, just being able to keep at bay Ollie O'Donovan as they turn their way onto the loose section of the circuit. And Evans can thank his lucky stars that this race has been rerun, because this will put him into the A final now. Steve Hill has really adapted well to Rallycross this year. He's second. Ollie O'Donovan, a bit frustrated to say the least, is third. And with the flag at the ready, who's going to be second? Can Hill hang on in there in the Mitsubishi Lancer? Yes, he can. It's a win then for Christopher Evans. Second is Steve Hill. Ollie O'Donovan is third.